Hey everybody and welcome to the Sim channel. This video is the ultimate guide to the GT Omega Pro sim rig. Whether you're about to get one or already have one, this video will guide you through the available accessories and hopefully tell you what you need and what you don't to make the best out of your rig. For a proper review of the rig, as well as some of the accessories, check out my other videos on the GT Omega Pro. The links are in the description. And we start with a disclaimer. Ever since I got my GT Omega Pro at the end of 2016, I've been in touch with the guys at GT Omega on and off to try and improve the rig. After my first review of the Pro rig went really well in terms of clicks, they started supplying me with free upgrades. However, not once did they ask me to make a review of these parts or try to influence the tone of my reviews, so as always you're getting my honest opinion in this video. The smallest package of the GT Omega Pro rig is priced at around 240 euros and contains the frame and a couple of accessories, but no seat. The accessories are the front-mounted shifter mount, a swiveling keyboard tray, a drink holder, and rear speaker mounts for a surround system. I've never tried the rear speaker mount since I'm not using a surround system, but I guess it'll do its job. However, if you move your seat further back, you might get into some clearance issues, and you want to make sure to secure your speakers on the mount. Otherwise, I don't see how you're not going to knock them over on a regular basis. The drink holder is somewhat cheap looking, and I'm not sure why you would want this on your rig when you can just put a bottle on the floor next to it, where it's less likely to get in the way or spill on your rig. Next up, the swiveling keyboard tray that comes with a base package. Unfortunately, I can't really recommend using this one, as it's quite flimsy and will just dangle about while you're driving. Luckily, there's a much better keyboard tray available if you want one, but more on that a little later. Finally, the shifter mount that comes with a base package is functional, but will flex noticeably when you pull on it a little harder. It never really annoyed me much when I had it on though, so with smaller shifters like the Logitech ones or the Thrustmaster TH8A, you should be fine with that one. There is, however, a better shifter mount available that we'll talk about a bit later. Since these parts come included with a base package, you can't get around them. In my opinion, none of these are really essential though. I'd honestly like to see the frame being sold without them at an even lower price, or see these parts replaced with others that, in my opinion, are essential to the rig. But that's just my 2 cents, and it's probably not happening anyway, so let's move on. In its base configuration, the GT Omega Pro is prone to some flex. It's pretty rigid along the vertical and lateral axes, but pull or push the wheel and you'll see some flex along the bottom of the frame. It's not all that bad, so if your budget is tight and you're using a belt or gear-driven wheel, you can get away with it. However, if it annoys you or you want to prepare the rig for a beefier wheel, it's really not that expensive to fix this issue. A second set of lateral support bars will set you back around 23 euros and will not only look really nice, it'll also let you get rid of any remaining lateral flex. The second pair can also help to mitigate some of the, let's call it, push-pull flex when you're using the extension bars for the chassis and wheel deck. To get a more drastic improvement, what you'll need are the Pro chassis stiffeners. These 4 little metal bars reinforce the bottom of the frame where the front and rear part of your rig meet, and in my opinion really make a big difference. The chassis stiffeners are not an official accessory though, so you won't get them through the webshop. Instead, you'll have to send an email to the GT Omega support and ask for them, which I highly recommend. Also make it clear you're talking about the chassis stiffeners and not the lateral support bars. At the price they're asking, I recommend getting both the chassis stiffeners and a second pair of lateral support bars. They will transform your GT Omega Pro from a very good budget option to a very solid rig that can last you a long time as you get more serious with your hobby. On that note, let's check out how a maxed out GT Omega Pro handles a direct drive wheelbase. In this shot, the Fanatec DD1 is set to 33% strength and the car in game is set to 100%. This is a pretty strong setting already, and most races would probably turn it down a bit from here. Next up is some drifting in a road car. For this, I'm using a large wheel with a 38 cm diameter that is set up to produce a realistic road car feel at about 30% of force. To really give the rig a stress test, we'll now take a look at kartcraft. This is a very harsh ride at 35% force, already giving me a bit of a workout. From my experience with rental cars, the steering torque at this setting is close to the real thing. And finally, let's do something ridiculous. We'll stay in kartcraft, but set the force feedback to 60%. This setting is not something anyone would want to use with a small wheel. I dialed it in for demonstrational purposes only, and I wouldn't last more than a couple of laps with it. Overall, I'd say a fully reinforced GT Omega Pro is absolutely suitable for direct drive wheels. So far, we've looked at the frame and the basic accessories, but haven't discussed the seat options at all. GT Omega offers 3 seats: the RS6, RS9, and Art XL RS. All 3 come with seat sliders, can be directly mounted to the frame, and cost roughly between 160 and 210 euros. I went with the RS9, and I have no experience with the other 2, but I believe the biggest difference between them is their size and looks. As far as I know, the RS9 is the smallest of the 3. I'm 1.80 m tall, or 5'11" for the Imperial crowd, and a rather wide build. The RS9 fit me okay, but for people much taller or wider, I'd recommend a larger seat like the RS6 or Art XL RS. The seats look decent, they're comfy, the backrest is inclinable, and they come at a fair price. However, as is to be expected with a reclinable seat, there is a little bit of flex in the backrest when you lean into the brakes. It's not a big deal, and you might not even notice it much while driving, but if you want something really stiff, you may want to explore other options. The second thing to be aware of with these seats is that, while they're perfectly suited for use in a sim rig, these seats are not as solid and beefy as regular car seats, and the artificial leather gives them a bit of a decent but low budget vibe in my eyes. Luckily, since the rig uses the standard 345 by 280mm bolt pattern to mount the seat sliders, your options don't stop with the GT Omega offerings. You should be able to mount pretty much any car seat on it that you'll find, giving you a lot of options. Note that since the pedal placement in the GT Omega Pro is very much fixed, you don't want to go without a seat slider. From what I could find online, these start at around 28 euros, but make sure you get one that doesn't have much play once it's locked into position. If you're considering a bucket seat, also keep in mind that if the seat of your choice has side mounts, you'll need mounting brackets to mount it onto the seat slider. These start at around 25 euros. Anyway, look out for alternatives if you're on a tight budget and want to undercut the GT Omega prices, you're looking for something a little different at around the same price, or want to get the seat of your dreams at just a small price bump. Places to look for seats would be your preferred online marketplaces, tuning shops, used seat offerings, or even your local scrapyard. In conclusion, the GT Omega seats, in my eyes, are a perfectly fair but not a spectacular offering, and depending on where you live and what you want in a seat, it doesn't hurt to consider your options. On that note, you might want to check out my video on the Merco Seats GT Race Gel seat from 2 weeks ago. The link's in the description. So now we covered all you need to know about the basic rig and seat. What's left are the optional add-ons that require the, quote, GT Omega Pro mounting accessory plate bracket. Let's just abbreviate that to MAP bracket. The MAP bracket is a large and heavy chunk of metal that goes right under the seat to offer some sturdy mounting solutions to the right and left of it. It'll set you back around 45 euros and doesn't bring any functionality of its own other than providing a mounting solution for accessories. The accessories that attach here would be the new articulating keyboard / mouse tray V2 or V3, the shifter mount V2, and the Club Sport handbrake mount. I already reviewed the new keyboard tray and shifter mount a while ago in a separate video that I'll also link for you guys down in the description. In short, the keyboard tray is a very solid piece of kit that you can work with or use for games without any issues. It feels sturdy, well made, and comes with a beautiful and thick soft touch mousepad. While you're driving, you can just move it out of the way and it's gonna stay in place where you put it. But is it worth the roughly 80 bucks on top of the price for the MAP bracket? Well, it's not an essential piece of kit for driving, so when you're on a tight budget, save the money. Otherwise, the price is absolutely justified for what you get in terms of materials, build quality, aesthetics, and utility. The shifter mount V2 is a very useful upgrade over the front-mounted shifter mount that is included with a frame. It can take on the popular shifters by Logitech, Thrustmaster, and Fanatic, but can be adjusted in all 3 axes and is quite rigid. I recommend this upgrade to anyone who uses their shifter on a regular basis. Finally, the Clubsport handbrake mount is the one piece of kit that I don't own since I don't have a handbrake yet. From the looks of it, I'd say it's gonna be pretty sturdy as well. However, it only supports the Fanatec handbrake natively. I believe that the Heusinkveld handbrake can be mounted as well with additional holes drilled into the mount, but I don't see the larger Thrustmaster handbrake / shifter to fit without getting a little more creative. Alright, and then there's the floor mat. I guess get it if you like the looks of it and want to protect the surface under your rig from scratches or imprints. It'll collect some dust over time, and it isn't the easiest thing to keep clean, but it does the job. If you need to slide your rig around a lot, it'll also help with that. In conclusion, the basic frame comes with a couple of unnecessary accessories and should be upgraded with a second set of lateral support bars as well as chassis stiffeners if possible. The GT Omega seat offerings are fair but not spectacular, and since you can mount pretty much any seat to the rig, it doesn't hurt to take a look around before you buy. Finally, the three parts that require the map bracket under the seat. If your budget allows for it, the new keyboard tray is pretty great and turns your rig into a very nice working place as long as your wheel deck isn't blocking the view on the screen, which, by the way, it absolutely should. The shifter mount V2 is a lot more rigid than the one that comes with a frame and gives you more options with respect to the placement of your shifter. The Clubsport handbrake mount is the one item I haven't tried since I don't have a handbrake, but it's your only option to mount one anyway, so go with it if you need it. And with that, we're at the end of this video. Thank you very much for watching. For any open questions regarding the GT Omega Pro, just leave a comment below and I will most likely get back to you. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe for more sim racing content like this. Have a good day and see you in the next video.